Moving on to other stories now. The Nigeria Labour Congress declared August 23rd as a day of mourning following the death of 2 workers after a recent protest in Nasarawa State. Now, correspondent Sharon Jackson was at the NLC Central Working Committee meeting in our report.
The Central Working Committee of the Nigerian Labour Congress held a meeting in Lagos to deliberate on issues affecting workers in the country. NLC President Comrade Ayuba Waba says Labour will stage a protest on August 23, 2016, following the death of 2 of their members when police fired live ammunition in the bid to quell workers' protest in Nasarawa State recently.
Workers across the country will actually wake up to support their colleagues in Nasarawa, and that also those 2 lives are very sacrosanct, and therefore the 23rd of August have been set aside as a national day of mourning to mourn these workers and also to protest this serial attack on workers' rights, including the attempt by Imo State government to try to reduce the 5-day work a week, 8 hourly, to 3-day work, including the fact that the state tried to get a law which is not in consonant with our national law, passed by the State House of Assembly to try to undermine workers' interests. This is condemnable.
The Central Working Committee also observed that the electricity distribution companies were yet to obey the judgment invalidating the new electricity tariff. He also spoke on speculations that there will be another fuel price hike soon.
CWC in session also declared that in view of the incalculable damage, any further increase in the pump price of petroleum products will be resisted with the full complement of all the structures of NLC and our social partners. 8. The CWC in session, in view of the growing difficulty in the economy associated with inflation and devaluation of the naira, that the new minimum wage demand is not only due but is imperative, and there is the urgent need for the process to take off and for it to be concluded.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian Apex Workers Union Labour has called for full compensation to be paid to families of the workers felled by police bullets during the Nasarawa protest. Sharon Ijason, TVC News, Lagos.
Right, joining us on the breakfast is the Commissioner for Budget and Planning, Nasarawa State, Dr. Osman Ibrahim Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed, it's good to have you join us on TVC Breakfast. And also joining us is the former NLC chairman in Nasarawa State, Mohammed Abdul Kefi. Mohammed, it's good to have you join us too. Welcome.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Now let me start with the commissioner in here. We hear of the face-off between NLC and the state. Can you give us a picture of what is going on between the state and NLC there?
Thank you very much, Mike. Let me say this. Sometimes early this year, the governor, bear in mind that the revenues accruable to the state were becoming quite short, and he thought it wise to convene a stakeholders meeting where critical stakeholders were invited, labor leaders, and all the former governors, senators were all invited, and in the meeting it was resolved, that government will have to review the salary structure so that government can attend to some other crucial developmental issues in the state. And in the stakeholders meeting, a communique or an agreement was reached, and it was agreed that a committee must be set to review the salary. And incidentally, I've been part of such a committee. And in the committee, we had wonderful discussions. We took a look at some of the issues and how best we could get out of it. On the very last day that we were about to put together our report, Labour became very uncomfortable with government position. But we said we were simply putting up a report. We should get the Labour dimension and the government dimension. Then the committee was going to stabilize and then provide a balance and advise government on the best way forward. Only for about to put together our report, Labour became very uncomfortable with government position. But we said we were simply putting up a report. We should get the Labour dimension and the government dimension. Then the committee was going to stabilize and then provide a balance and advise government on the best way forward. Only for them to walk out at the very last minute that we're supposed to sign reports. And well, I expected that there should have been a minority report or a press conference showing their displeasure over the way and manner such things were conducted. And government went ahead, invited them, told them that this is the decision government has taken, only for them to just proceed on strike.
Mr.
Now,
Commissioner,
after
if
strike,
you got your explanation
last
correctly,
2 weeks.
Mr. Commissioner, sorry, I have to interrupt you. If you got
Yes.
your explanation correctly, you already came to a conclusion and you were about signing the agreement. Was that what you said?
Yes, yes, in the committee.
So that means it was a done deal.
It was somehow a done deal.
Okay,
but
so
it's just for them to append their signature and they staged a walkout.
okay, so if they were just to append their signature and they felt uncomfortable at that point where the whole thing was already done, then if they had signed that same document, it would have been binding on them, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
So they won't be bargaining from a point of strength.
Sorry?
So they won't be bargaining from the point of strength if they had signed that agreement instead of working out on you.
Oh, definitely. One would have expected, since you staged the walkout, give us reasons and then advance some suggestions so that government can make do with such suggestions. You don't just walk out and then you expect that we'll just go into a mind reading game and they will say, no, they have walked out. This is what we want. You have to, be available to make your case known to all so that we'll be able to see what we're talking about, really.
All right. Now, Osman, we'll come back to this. Let me bring in the NLC chairman, Nasarawa State here, Mohammed Abdul Kefi, joining us. Now, Mohammed, we have heard the commissioner say now, what was the disagreement, or at what point was the dissatisfaction expressed from NLC as far, because the commissioner said that there was a meeting, there was an agreement, and in fact there were robust conclusion, and there was a communique to that effect where both of you attended, all stakeholders attended the meeting, or former chairman of NLC rather. Mohammed, can I hear you give us an explanation from that perspective?
Well, so I want to say that actually there's a face-off between government and Labour, and I believe that there should be discussions. They should go back to the round table and discuss so that they can be able to iron out their differences. The best option whenever there are Labour dispute is to go to a round table discussion so that you understand yourself better.
So what was the point of disagreement between the Labour and the government?
Well, actually, the point of disagreement is the issue of salary, and I believe that all this while, all has been well between Labour and government in Nasarawa State, the governor of Nasarawa State was very magnanimous in paying salaries right from his first tenure to date. We are all aware of what has been happening in the country, actually, the recession everywhere. And I believe that they should have sit down with the government to not look at issues objectively. Because I believe that by being confrontational will not solve any problem.
All right, so the NLC was being confrontational with the government.
Because as it is now, they are on strike. They are on strike, and I believe that you should have told the line of dialogue. Because dialogue is the best option in whatever grievances you might have. And by the time you have a disagreement between the two bodies, that is between government and labor, I was very happy when I heard that the national president of NLC was coming to Nasarawa State. I was very, very happy because he was not coming to, to resolve these differences. But unfortunately, it happened. So I hope and I believe that the national president of NLC, whom I respect very well and I know him personally, I know that he's a man that actually will be able to come and intervene between the government and labor to find the lasting solutions to this lingering problem. Because majority of the people of Nasarawa State are suffering. The masses are suffering. Hospitals are closed down. People don't have access. The less privileged don't have access to go to these hospitals. We should be so much concerned on the plight of the downtrodden. Nasarawa State belongs to all of us.
Okay.
We have to come back to the round table and have discussions and find a way forward.
All right. Mohammed, you are the former NLC chairman. You're talking this way. Is it because you're no longer the NLC chairman, Nasarawa State chapter?
Yes.
Is that why you're talking this way? If you had been the chairman, would you have agreed to the terms and conditions of the government?
What I'm saying is that there is disagreement already between government and labor. And the best option out of this disagreement is to sit down on a round table and look at the issues objectively, both ways, and then come to a resolution.
Okay,
we believe in dialogue in labor movement, actually.
All right.
And we remain resolute.
All right, let me bring in Othman back in here, the Commissioner of Budget and Planning. Now that NLC has staged a walkout and there has been a protest in there, what is the resolution of government as to how to go about the issues of the salaries, the salary structures that you agreed with all the stakeholders in the implementation phase?
Well, when they staged a walkout, government just knew that the act of governance must go on and decided to adjust the minimum wage table and not violating any law establishing minimum wage. And that's precisely where we are now. Labor is not comfortable and labor is not forthcoming. We must come together and forge ahead. We are waiting for their position. We had something close to agreement when the national chairman of labor, Comrade Ayuba Wabba, came, and suddenly there was that incident. But we were all together when that incident occurred, and the meeting still went on, and I listened to him very passionately. The Comrade leader said, "Governor, you've been wonderful, labor friendly, showed all the encomiums of the governor, and said, please call back your boys. Let there be some agreement, sort of." And the governor did not hesitate. Less than 24 hours, he invited labor, and we had a meeting. One would have expected that they should have taken advantage of that meeting to tell the governor, look, I think you're hard on us, or we are not comfortable with the new salary structure, or adjusted salary, or whatever it may be. We think that you can do better. Even if you're not going back to the old ways of doing things, let there be a new way that will still address some of our teething problems. So one would have expected that coming from labor leadership, more so that to become a leader, you must be somebody living above board. That's just what we're expecting. And to hear that there's going to be a planned protest in Nasarawa for the high-handedness on the side of police, honestly, is the most unfortunate thing. Because when that thing happened, Waba, Comrade Waba, and all others, everybody was not happy, condemned in totality what happened. But now the investigation is ongoing, and only for somebody who want to protest. And I'm wondering, if you're going to protest against police that should give you cover, I think it's going to be prejudicious, because we've not gotten the outcome of who actually killed those people. Because some are believing it's mob action, some are believing otherwise, and so on. And I think the kind of fragile peace Nasarawa is currently experiencing, it will be the worst decision for anybody to want to take, that you're going to plan a protest in Nasarawa. I think somebody somewhere should advise him to stop that.
All right, Dr. Uthman, couple of questions here, really. I'd like to know exactly this adjustment you're talking about, the salary of the people. What did you do? Did you reduce it? Because we had a report that the government wants to reduce it about 50%. Is that what is obtainable? What exactly are the reductions we're talking about?
Well, this is a statistic question. There was a cross-board adjustment, and let me say this. No percentage was directly applied, so to speak. We took a look at some of the, look at the minimum table. Hitherto, a worker in Nasarawa State on grade level 1, step 1, was taking home 18,900 naira. And with the review, if you know what the minimum wage law is saying, the minimum should be 18,000 naira. But Nasarawa government in 2011, because it was carried away by the victory of the offset on PDP, reviewed its minimum wage salary to 18,900. So across board, there was this review which sees anybody on grade level 1, step 1, taking home 18,216. So those were the general adjustment that we had. It's been done. One would have expected that since we took our time to critically look at this, even in the committee, if Labour was uncomfortable with such adjustment, they should so forward their unsuggested position, but not to think that no, government just decided unilaterally. Honestly, I want to say this, I stand corrected. The governor did not go to sleep and then had a nightmare and decided that this salary thing should be reviewed. They are free to make available documents where such did not take place, and I'm ready to make available documents where such things.
All right, this adjustment, did it also affect political appointees in the state like yourself? This adjustment you're talking about, are you also affected?
Yes. Yes. When the governor took a snap on it, he now said, look, it's not just the civil servants that are going to be affected, even political office holders. Starting with him, the governor, that there was going to be a 50% slash on his salaries and allowances, 30% on his deputy governor, and then 20% on political office holders like me. And we are all in it.
Okay, now let me bring, before we go on the news update for the time, let me bring in the former chairman NLC, Mohammed, in here. Now, you earlier on you said that workers in Nasarawa State are suffering and so on. There's a planned strike, or impending strike as the case may be, as NLC is notifying everyone. What will be your advice? How will this strike compound the issue? Because you said earlier on too that there has to be a negotiation process to see how to resolve this issue.
Exactly. You see, whenever there are issues like this at stake, the labor movement should be able to remain resolute and committed to the struggle by making sure that they toe the path of consultation, dialogue, and all that it takes to make sure that they're able to press home and present the issues objectively to the government. That is the line that I would have loved them to toe.
But they are not towing this line yet.
By the time now, if you look at the whole scenario now, yeah, because at the end of the day, they got angry and they are on strike. Now there's a stalemate. So the option now is, earlier I told you, I said that the national president of NLC, Comrade Ayuba Waba, was in Nasarawa State. And when he came down to Nasarawa State, we now believe that the discussion between the state leadership and the government has broken down. He was now coming in to now make sure that everything is strengthened properly. So unfortunately, it didn't see the light of the day, and I'm so worried about that. So everybody is worried. Okay. We are all worried because everything has come to a standstill in terms of medical facilities to be downtrodden in the state.
All right, Mohammed, we'll come back to this.
Try as much as possible.
Yes, Mohammed, we'll come back to this. Yeah, Mohammed will come back to this shortly. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we are discussing the issues from Nasarawa State. The NLC is calling for a strike from the 23rd of August there, concerning the face-off between the Labour and the government. And we have the Commissioner of Budget and Planning, Dr. Othman Ibrahim Ahmed, joining us from our Abuja studio. We also have the former NLC Chairman of Nasarawa State, Mohammed Abdul Kefi. We are discussing this issue. Now, let me come to you, Commissioner, on this issue. Now, how likely is it for the state that the state government will try to, in the sake of peace, to extend its hand of negotiation or fellowship again to the NLC, for them to come back, or for you all to come back to the drawing board and have a rediscussion on this?
Well, thank you, Mike. You see, hands of friendship honestly has already been extended. From the other side, that's Labour. I'm actually amazed. I don't know what's going on there. Let me make quick to state this. When the Ayuba, the comrade Ayuba, when he left and the plea he made that he should invite Labour, government did invite them. One of the things they said was that when they were enjoying the former minimum wage, most workers went and took loans from financial institutions. And so repaying these loans will now become a headache for them. And I did advise, after all, government served as collateral for the loan you took. Get back to government and see how we can take a second look at what's currently ongoing. But the governor is very adamant about the fact that we cannot go back to the old ways of this payment we were doing. But it's a way of saying that there is a caveat, there is a window, we can take advantage of it. It's not about you staying away. I can assure you, look, traditional rulers have even stepped into the matter, and that they're going to get the two to come back to a round table to see if we can get out of this thing. And let me make quick to say this. They were not on ground, and government paid June salary to all workers, which shows how generous and how fatherly the governor has been in this regard. So I'm thinking that if they are going to listen to people from outside, they will definitely infect the act of governance by self-seeking politicians and who just want to sell their case cheaply. There is no democracy that will strive without opposition, but let it be critical, critical, and then help the winning party or the ruling party to do the right thing. And precisely that's what we're saying. if they are ready to listen to the governor and they can make constructive criticisms and adjustments or suggestions, I can assure you the governor will look at them. But this act of calling names, insulting everybody, honestly will not take us anywhere.
All right, let's talk about those who died in the process of the protest that took place, which was one of the main grounds of the NLC coming. They've tagged the day actually a mourning day. What is your government planning to do, even without the reports or the result of the investigation yet? Is some kind of compensation from the families of the victims or what?
Sorry, I lost her. I'm not hearing her.
My question is on those who died during the protest. What is the government doing about that? Apart from the investigation, we know that is on. But before then, before the result of the investigation, any compensation for the families of the victims, or what do you have in mind?
Thank you very much. Immediately, the incidents happened. Comrade Waba pleaded to the governor to do something immediately, especially for those who were shot, those who died and those who sustained degrees of injury. And I'm telling you, with a dispatch, the governor attended to that. And even as the investigation is ongoing, the governor is reaching out to those who are directly affected by this issue. They can come out and refute it. If you listen to what the papers are saying, that the governor ordered for them to be killed and he's now giving them money, when it was a passionate appeal that came from the NLC chairman. And honestly, that's what I'm saying. We all are one in this thing. We should not listen to people outside. It's more or less a family thing. People from outside would not understand our heartbeat and may just lead us to nowhere. The governor is doing so well, and one of the, the chaps that died is a journalist, and the governor has done so much, so well for the family and other families. So it's not as if there is no milk of human kindness in this issue. It's just that there is something that is a mystery.
Okay, let me bring in Mohammed in here. Now, earlier when you were speaking, you talked about the fact that Nasarawa state workers, people in Nasarawa are suffering. Now, we'd like to have a picture of what people in Nasarawa state are going through, if the kind of situation going in there. We know that there's some level of difficulty across the country based on how the economy is. But let's have the peculiarity, or maybe specifically, what's going on in Nasarawa state from that perspective.
Well, before I comment on that, I will want to inform you also that Labour actually gave an award to His Excellency, Comrade Umaru Al-Makura, for being Labour-friendly in that state. That I'm very, very happy about it. And for giving him an award as a Labour-friendly governor of the workers of Nasarawa State. We shouldn't have gone to this stage because he is their boy in Labour movement. They should have told the path of dialogue. To give somebody an award from a respected organization like the Labour movement is something that you can't quantify it. When workers are now on strike, you know the hospitals are not working. How many people can afford to go to a private hospital? Very few. These are areas that I believe Labour should come back to the round table, discuss the issues, and find a lasting solution to it. Even in war front, you discuss, you negotiate. You create an enabling environment for the government so they can discuss. That is my belief. With that, we will cushion all these issues that people are facing.
All right, with the reduction that the government has made, now how many of those workers you're talking about can afford to go to the hospital?
Well, this is an issue that I believe that the organized labor in Nasarawa State should be able to sit down with the government and discuss and iron out their differences. We believe in dialogue in the labor movement. And our strength in discussion is our collective, bargaining and negotiations. There is a problem actually. If there are problems, what do? You don't just sit down in your home and think that the problem will be solved. You have to find a way of solving that problem. And how do you find a way of solving the problem? Is going to the round table and discuss these issues objectively, and then resolve them.
All right. Dr. Uthman, let's come back to you now and talk about your IGR in your state. How would you rate your internally generated revenue so far, say between the last 2 years? What would you say about your internally generated revenue, sir?
Well, the internal generated revenue in the state is growing very slowly. And that's why government has put in place some measures to explore the most buoyant angle to the revenue, which is the Karu axis. It's been doing well, but you see, I keep asking this question. If we're talking about salaries, we've been lazy over time in the country. Most governments pay salaries using SR, statutory revenue allocation from the federal government. So the governor of Nasarawa State is saying he's done so much enough for labor. We cannot shut our doors to development and then you turn him into a paymaster where all he collects is to pay workers, and then we fold our arms and wait for another month. So the IGR is used, to really augment in some areas of development.
You don't think that's where the problem is now, Mr. Commissioner, that the state can no longer pay the salary because what they get from FAC is now reducing by the day. Production is not was what it is. Oil prices is not what it used to be. So perhaps your FAC even for next month might be smaller than what you got a month before. You don't think it's time to think outside of the box?
Well, if I listen to you well, you are simply saying because the cost of living is high, we should now begin to pay more. It makes sense in a common sense.
No, that's not what
argument.
I said.
But in economic sense, okay?
That's not what I said. My question
sorry, what did you say? Let me hear you well.
My question is on the issue of thinking outside of the box. If what you are getting from the federal allocation is no longer sufficient to pay your workers and run the governance of the state, do you think it is time for your state to think outside of the box, think of how else to generate revenue to sustain itself and stay afloat?
Okay, I understand what you're saying. A very valid question. You see, in the interim, this is the decision government has taken. But we are actually thinking out of the box to see that we can leverage this problem they are in. It's not as if the government has taken decision, that is it, we close shop. No, we should come together, let's come to work and see that we can do something. This is just an interim measure in the current situation. It's just an address into the situation. When we come together, we work together, we get out of this thing, and if the revenue increases and then our SRA increases, why not? The governor is not here to come up with some laws, out to just exact unnecessary pain on its workers. No, but staying away is quite very unacceptable, because I recall what Abiola used to say, that you cannot shave somebody's hair in his absence. Let them come back to work. There is no move anywhere that they want to come and see the government and the government has shut its doors on them. It's not true. When we come together, work on the revenue angle and see that if we move up, we can now say, look, Baba, we have more now. We've been getting less. We've all sacrificed for what we were in. Now that we are where we are, what can you do? In fact, people will say, look, the boys are right. Papa, do something. That's the way I think we should look at this thing.
All right. Honorable Commissioner, before I let you go now, the the people is the focal point here, because everything you're doing is for the people of Nasarawa State. Now, apart from the review of the salaries generally, which certainly is going to affect them one way or the other, we know the general situation in the country, but what is the government doing for the people directly, specifically to look for a way of ameliorating the challenges they're facing economically?
Okay, let me tell you this. In 2011, when Al-Makura came into power, what he did, when the minimum wage that they were enjoying for 5 years, and let me quote my governor, he said, the triple minimum wage. You see, when it was agreed that the minimum wage was going to be paid, all effects on the workers stopped. There were no promotions, no this, no that, no areas of this, no areas of that. Now that we have come to this level, government has said, now that the salaries have been reviewed, there will be promotion, there will be leave grant, there will be all other benefits accruable to workers. That he has said. Then there was no promotion, now there will be promotion, so that it will lead you into your retirement. All this government has agreed, and government has even agreed to constitute a body to look at this and let it be done with dispatch. And I am thinking that we are actually not just sitting there and enjoying that somebody is in pain. Definitely not. We are aware the took loan repayment is becoming a problem. There are those who've been saying that what they take home is less than 2,000. That again we have understood. So come, what is your problem? There are peculiarities. Even with this, there are workers that are willing to come back to work, but the leadership will not allow them to come. So the government is not just smiling that the workers and the people are in pain.
Okay, Mohammed, this is the final question for you. My colleague asked about ameliorating the pains and the suffering of the people. What would you suggest as a former NLC president of that chapter?
I will suggest that you don't always demand for increase of minimum wage. Always, you should sit down as an organized body and present a blueprint to the government on how you feel things should be done. So you see, the funny thing about the whole exercise that is baffling me is that there has been a very good synergy between labor and government.
My question is, let me repeat myself, perhaps.
In fact,
my question,
the process.
Mohammed, my question to you is, what would you suggest? How would you suggest the government ameliorates the suffering of the people there? We understand that there's need for dialogue, but what do you want the government to do if you were in their shoes to make a negotiation for them?
If I were in the shoes of the government or labor?
Labor.
In the shoes of labor?
Yes.
I will sit down and articulate the peculiar problems of the state and present it to the government.
Okay. Now
as a labor man.
Okay. Let me bring in the. All right. Thank you. Let me bring in the commissioner finally in here. Now, you have given us a perspective and a basis for all of this. Now, what precisely does the government want from the labor now going forward in order to ensure that things don't get worse for Nasarawa State and its people?
Let me be very frank with you, Mike. What the governor is simply saying, labor, you are having an issue. Come back to work. While other essential services are ongoing, what is the problem? If the problem is quite germane and convincing, we'll take a second look at it. That's all that the governor is saying. Call off your strike. Let's come back to work. Then let us keep on talking. What exactly is it that you're talking? You do not have to allow me read your grievances on the pages of the newspaper. Come talk to me eyeball to eyeball. Let us understand what the problem is. But it's not about having to hit hard on some people. The schools are closed, the hospitals are not ongoing, all these essential services are put So precisely, that's what the government is saying. Come. When you're willing to come, then fine. But I am advising Labour to know that you have to be a worker before you are a member of Labour. And if you agree that you have a boss, you have to talk with the boss.
All right, Honorable Commissioner, Budget and Planning, Nasarawa State, Dr. Othman Ibrahim Ahmed, thank you for talking to us this morning. As well, former NLC Chairman, Nasarawa State, Mohammed Abdul Kefi, thank you, gentlemen, for talking to us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for joining us.